wild quiet all of a sudden when I walk in. Mo Jim with the Rams, he always said, "Let's need like all the scouts are in the draft room talking." And then he walks in, everybody's quiet. It's like that's like the real stuff you need to know. Is that yeah? But anyways, appreciate you guys coming. First of all, just kind of want to start off just kind of giving some appreciation. Thanks, obviously, first and foremost, to our ownership. Their support, their belief, most importantly, their patience that they practice with the plans that we have in place and what we're trying to build just really means everything. Want to thank the players, just their grind and commitment. Often people don't have any idea of what that grind is like during the week, and sometimes in conjunction with their grind during the week, in conjunction with the coach's hard work, on game days it looks like magic sometimes, but it's a lot that goes on during the week, and it's extremely intense, and just very appreciative of their dedication and sacrifices that they put in. Our coaches, I think Dan and the rest of the staff, they did an unbelievable job. They're very passionate. They're very committed to the development of our players. They're all excellent teachers. And I thought they did an unbelievable job. I thought our personnel staff, specifically our pro personnel department, Rob Lohman, Joe Keller, Justin Licker, those guys working around the clock. Starts off in camp, like I told you guys at the end of training camp with preseason scouting and all of that. But when you get into the advances and working the waiver wire, workouts, all that stuff, they've had some finds. We've had some summer editions, post draft of the John Kaminsky, Isaiah Buggs, Justin Jackson after camp. I mean, those were real players. So credit to those guys. Those guys did a great job. And then really the rest of our personnel department, just from an operations standpoint, just to get through the season, did an amazing job. Our analytics, our football IT department, they're all rock stars in there, and I could go on and on. I mean, our trainers, our football ops staff, our equipment, video department, player engagement, player wellness, nutrition. They all play a part in this. It's all hands on deck. Our grounds crew, I think our grounds crew is elite. I mean, those guys are as good as it gets in this business. So really, it's all hands on deck. Just want to thank everybody, but certainly not least our fans. Our atmosphere every week was electric, man. Like it was electric, and it created a tough environment for our opponents. A lot, the sellouts that they were able to provide. But we talk about who we are as a team and what we want to be for our city, but One Pride, man, like you better buckle up for One Pride, because they're a gritty group. Their energy's unmatched, and you just better be ready every single week. So much appreciation what those guys did and what those guys brought. Just in regards to the season, obviously finishing up at 9-8, 5-1 within the division, it's an improvement. I believe it is a step in the right direction, and it's another step to where we want to go, but we still have work to do, and but I do think that we're just getting started. I think we're just getting started, and we're just going to keep going up from here. Last year a foundation was laid, culture was put in place, but this year in and off, I think the standard is set now. I believe a standard set, and that standard, it's not going to be compromised. It's not going to be compromised no matter what. And it's a standard of who's on this team, who's in this building, a standard of who's on this staff, and all of that's earned. And I think everybody did earn that this year, and couldn't really be proud of it. You always talk about, we have a plan, and we have a plan in place. And we said it a lot last year. We have a plan. But really, when you have a plan, it has to work. And there's times where you might start questioning that plan. If the plan's not working, don't keep doing it, because it's not working. But we stayed committed to our plan, and we had a disciplined approach. And see, we thought that even through the dark times, we saw enough growth that let's just stay committed, let's stay the course, don't waver. And I think that's exactly what our team did. And I think the adversity that came along with that's really what shaped us. So again, I'm just proud of everything, of what everybody did. With that plan, I remember at 1-6, everybody was they were ready to ride us off, but nobody ever wavered. Everybody stayed the course, and I think they were resilient with the adversity that we all faced. And we made a commitment to build this thing the right way. And sometimes the right way it's the hard way, but it's just the right way, and we stayed committed to it. And we saw the growth, and we just stayed patient. And like I said, we just had a disciplined approach, and I think towards the end you started to see it really materialize. So it was good to see. But I'll take any questions.
Brad, with that plan, some themes have kind of emerged with your free agency approach, a lot of prove-it deals and retention of your own guys that you know. I'm wondering, as you kind of evolve into this next layer of contention, I guess, does the free agency plan evolve in any way with that?
No, it really doesn't. We're always going to be very strategic and selective with our approach. Even back, regardless of how many resources you have, how much money you can spend, we always are very selective and strategic with how we go about free agency. And that's upcoming UFAs that are on our team, as well as external ads. But it's always going to be the same approach, and I think we've kind of proven that. Obviously, year one didn't have as many resources at our disposal, but we were very selective about who were the right guys, and being very selective about, all right, Alex Anzalone, he's the right guy. Khalif Raymond, he was the right guy. Charles Harris, he's the right guy. It's not that it was just a prove-it one-year deal, but it was the right guy. There was a ton of other options for, prove-it one-year deals, but we just are really, really strategic and selective in who getting those right guys, and we'll continue that same plan.
You prioritize bringing back your own free agents. Is that could be a similar approach going forward with with the importance of those guys to the culture you built here? And I think, especially with Chark and Kaminsky, there's some questions. Are those guys priorities for you?
Yeah, I mean, those guys had good years. And look, as long as they're fits for our culture and what we're trying to build and where we're going, yeah, absolutely. Now, like I say all the time, those guys are UFAs for the whole league. So, obviously we know them and they know us. And I know a lot of those guys that want to come back. I pretty much me and Ray Agnew met with all of our guys that are coming up on expiring deals. And, majority of them, they express interest in wanting to come back. But I don't ignore the reality of there's other elements of that business that we're going to have to deal with. But it was cool to hear because those guys believe in what we're doing, and they believe it's the right way. They like how they're treated. They can be themselves, and it was just cool to hear that they think that we're doing it the right way. But yeah, we'll just see how it goes. But hopefully we can get a lot of those guys back.
You saw Jared Goff as the guy here. Even when some people might not have saw it, they might saw him as a bridge guy. You said all along you saw him, as a guy for the future. I guess, what did you learn about him this year, and just entering his situation this year? Like, how confident are you guys, to make a decision on what you need to do with him as well?
Yeah, I don't really know what the decision is. I was always confident in him because I've been with him from the get-go since he was drafted back when I was with LA. I just kind of know how resilient and mentally tough he is. And, I think a lot of it was me knowing all the success he had in LA. I think that was kind of forgotten about a little bit when he got here. And I think he was put in a very tough situation. I don't want to say I don't know how many quarterbacks in that situation that he was in last year, but we had a lot of injuries, man, and we didn't really have the weapons around him. Dan had to really make a very tough decision on the staff offensively and make a change there. So and he stayed the course. I've talked to you guys about this at length, but knowing what he's made of, that's why I kept faith, kept confidence, and I respect the hell out of him because I told him, look, we'll hold up our end of the bargain. Like we were being held accountable. We got to put you in the right situation with the right pieces around you. Stability on offense, and felt like we did that. And he held up his end of the bargain, and I think it just worked out. But I didn't really have any doubt or waver. Again, like you said, Eric, I never really deemed him as a bridge. I think everybody else did, but I think it's a little bit of the recency bias from what he had to go through last year.
Right. You had a lot of success with this rookie class. Can you admit, were you a little bit surprised at how much success you had out of this rookie class, and compared it to the first class that you had a lot more success? Is there a reason why there was such a difference?
When you say surprise, I'm not surprised about the success. Now, you don't know if, Kirby Joseph's going to pick off Aaron Rodgers 3 times in a season. Or you don't know if when James Houston gets going, that he's going to have 8 sacks in just that small sample size. I can't say we have that crystal ball, but we do know about who they were as football players. Like, we knew Kirby Joseph was a ball guy. We knew he was a ball hawk. We knew he had outstanding instincts to get the football. So that's not a surprise. We knew that James Houston had all the developmental attributes and traits, and he had the football character and the intangibles to work with that development. And so him having production, that's not a surprise. We knew Aiden. We pretty much knew what his skill set was and what his drive and determination, what his intangibles were. So I don't want to say like we knew that the statistics would be what they were, but we're not really surprised that they end up having success, and that's why we do all the work that we do.
And just compared to last year's rookie class, it was such a dramatic just the production that you got out of them this year. Is there a reason why there was so much success for this class versus last year's?
Last year's rookie, like in terms of like St. Brown and are you talking about like?
Well, the whole class, from last year.
You mean
Levi
like,
and those guys, and
who?
like Levi on Wuzarike.
Yeah, well, I mean, Levi had to deal with some medical stuff, obviously, but I actually thought that there was no really disappointment from last year's class. Obviously, now if you want to compare stats and production, I guess as a whole, I think that's fair to say. That it was a little bit higher, but I thought Panay showed last year as a rookie that he was going to be one of the better tackles in this league. That's what I thought. I thought Aleem McNeil showed that look, he's a good starting nose tackle in this league. We knew that Derek Barnes had to develop and work. I think that showed this year. If he had to deal with some things, but when he played, when he was healthy, I thought that he showed flashes and spurts, and then obviously going through a position switch there. But and then obviously St. Brown speaks for itself. But that's why I don't think that anything was like a disappointment or anything. I just think that it was good production this year though.
Follow up on what Eric asked about Jared, just because maybe there is a little different semantics, I guess, but between not being a bridge and being the quarterback of the future, you do have a top 6 pick that people will still wonder about. Is Jared, can you say unequivocally, like he's your quarterback of the future and we're trying to build around him as part of this offense going forward?
Having the top 6 pick, people worry about.
People will wonder if a quarterback could be in the mix there. And so I guess I'm just...
What do you think, Dave? You think quarterback should be in the mix?
I think you should never take quarterback out of the mix, but I think Jared has played super well for you.
What would you say?
I said I don't think you should ever take quarterback out of the mix because of the position, but Jared has obviously played really well. So I guess I'm wondering what you think if he's unequivocally the guy.
Well, I agree that he's played really well, and I'll say this, Dave. No, seriously, I think that I think it's a lot easier to get worse at quarterback than to get better at quarterback, and so I in this league, and so I think what Jared has done this year, he captained the ship of a top 3 offense, and I want to say he was top 10 statistically in most of the passing categories. So, and again, how we approach the draft, like we're never going to turn down a good football player. So if it's a football player we really love, I mean, we're going to make sure every stone is unturned. But I do think that Jared has proven everybody that he is a starting quarterback for us.
That Matthew Stafford trade, because we now know that the final piece to the puzzle. I'm sure you did best and worst case scenarios as you weighed the offers there. How close is this to best case given the way Jared's playing? And I don't know if you anticipated a top 10 pick being in play with this, but how close is it to a best case that you're envisioning when you made that deal?
Yeah, I would say the pick. Obviously, knowing that the Rams were a really good team, I knew when we made the trade that, it was likely that that pick was going to be late in the first round, however far that they went. But, I didn't know about the pick this year. Obviously, being their track record and all the success they have, you don't just obviously think that it'll be a top 10 pick, but that's what I say every year, though, when schedules come out and people say, oh, well, someone's got an easy schedule. And someone like, well, what do you mean an easy schedule? Every single year is different for every single year. I guess you could say it's fair to say that it is best case scenario, but the success that Jared had, like, again, just like I was telling Eric, like, I'm not surprised about that, but obviously the pick it's definitely nice to have that high.
Frank, you said the standard has been set now going forward.
Yeah.
Is it safe to say playoffs? That's the standard now going forward?
Yeah, I mean, I felt like, I felt like we, I felt like we could have been in there and competed with those guys. And obviously it didn't work out. But, I think we were right at the cusp there. But we made the improvement from 3 wins last year to being right on the cusp of possibly getting into the playoffs. So, I mean, that would be the next step, is to get into the playoffs. And when you get in there, when you get into that dance, anything can happen. And so –
The leap from 3 wins to 9 wins is pretty significant.
Yeah.
Is the next leap even more difficult?
Well, I don't think it's more difficult. As long as we continue to stay the path and stay the course and stay committed and disciplined in our approach, I would expect more improvement. And if more improvement means the difference of being right on the cusp of the playoffs to being in the playoffs, then yes, that's exactly what I would expect.
Brad, you guys have always been playing about the JMO pick being for 2023. That's kind of the long-term future, 2023 and beyond. So I'm just curious, what did you see in JMO when he was out there briefly in 2022? And then as you look forward, what's the plan with JMO organizationally with getting him where he needs to be going into that season?
Yeah, well, I would say this on JMO. So, I think I've made this point before, at the end of camp, but it's first time him going through an injury and a rehab process like he had to go through. And, to his credit, he went through it. And I think, just getting through that for the first time, and then when he completed that at where we were at in the season, like, that was the first hurdle. That was the first step. And yes, he was in meetings and he was at practice every day, but it's different not getting those live reps. So all those other receivers, like, DJ and Josh and Saint and Gleef, like, those guys have been working with Jared way back in the off season, so they've had all that chemistry and all those reps and getting on the same page. And so Jameson kind of had to start that after he got healthy and clear to get back on the field. So I think a little bit of what you saw, I don't think that's really anywhere close to where this kid's going to go. I mean, he made some big plays and he had some flashes, but the other thing about Jameson, he's just a football player, man. So whatever the role is, I know a lot was made about that first game and was he going to be on punt team and all that stuff, man. That dude just wants to be out there on the football field, man. That's how he's wired. That's how he is. But I don't think anything he did this year is anywhere remotely close to where he's going to go. We'll determine like what that role is, and a lot of it is on him too. He's going to have to put the work in this all season. He's going to have to be dedicated in his approach, and we can provide all the resource and lay it all out, but he's going to have to take the accountability and do it on his own. But got a lot of faith and confidence in Jameson, and obviously because we traded up for him and made the move for him, we all had the same belief. So I think he's going to be just fine.
Right here this offseason, you got a lot of draft capital.
Yeah.
People describe you as a draft junkie, kind of in this process. how much are you looking forward to just what, you can continue to shape? You come off this year, you still get excited for the draft like that and just the possibilities, what you guys can do. Like, hey, where's your mind going into this offseason?
Man, it's exciting. It's really exciting. I get excited every time. Like as much as, the ball didn't bounce our way in terms of us getting into the playoffs after the game. I was proud of our guys. I was proud of our organization. I was proud that we were able to end on a winning note in front of national TV and be able to give the world a sneak peek of, like, really what we're about. We've been on the Sunday 1 o'clock skirt all the time, so a lot of guys, they didn't see us, what we were all about, and I think everybody were able to see that. But on the plane going back, yeah, I was excited. I was like, man, it's time to get players now, and that just gives me juices, man. If that opportunity and those windows come up, man, and it's exciting to have the capital that we have. Obviously, made some moves. Probably some that weren't popular among, people outside this building. But just like I say all the time, we do every single thing for a reason. Every single thing is well thought out. Single thing is well planned. We're not in a position to be knee-jerk or impulse. We're not in a position to, fold the tents. No, we don't. Like, that doesn't even touch the surface of what our thinking is. So it's good to have the capital, and I always say, you can have all the picks you want, you better pick them right. But we have confidence in our process that we'll do that.
I'm wondering your assessment of Dan Campbell this season. At 1-6, it could have gone another direction, but he held it together. Just your thoughts on his performance this season.
I think Dan, he's special. He's elite. I will say what Dan can do, and I don't know if all coaches have, but I'll say he has an elite ability to pull the team out of a dark place. And whether it's from a record standpoint, whether it's something from he has to make a tough decision on the staff, like, it's proven. Proof's in the pudding. He had to make a tough decision on the staff last year. A decision that I know he didn't want, but he had to, and he knew he had to, and he's going to do it. He's going to do what it takes for the team. He had to do it again this year. It was at 1-6, and he just has a rare, elite ability to pull a team out and right the ship. And when you have that, I think it's God-given, and you just either have it or don't, and he has that. And that's one of the many qualities I think makes him an elite coach.
Brad, what position group do you think needs the most upgrade in the offseason?
I mean, it's a good question. It's a fair question. There's a lot of different areas that we can go, especially with, the resource that we'll have available to us. Obviously, our defense was ranked 32nd, so I mean, it's pretty obvious that we're going to have to utilize some resources to try and improve that defense. I do believe that there's some young guys on our defense right now that are only going to get better. Everything that Malcolm Rodriguez was able to do, I know that linebacker kind of came in as a question, but I think that thing ended as it's more of a positive and more of a strength of Anzalone having a 100-plus tackle season, Derek Barnes taking a jump, and then Malcolm Rodriguez. And I think, our pass rush is on the come. Obviously Aiden with 9.5 sacks, I think he's only going to get better. James Houston's only going to get better. So, and then guys that we did not have, available to us is Charles Harris. I mean, Charles Harris had to go on IR. So him coming back, Romeo had to kind of come back slowly from a really tough injury. So there's pieces there. They always weren't available to us, but we saw enough growth. But obviously, we need to improve in that area, and I think we will.
Spending your option decision on Okudah. Where did his play fall off, if at all, late in the season? And what did you just make of him overall this season, coming back from the injury that he came back from too?
Yeah, Jeff, first of all, I told you guys after camp that, I give him so much credit because we challenged him and he answered the challenge, but I also told you guys, look, it's basically his rookie season, and he's kind of really getting this extensive action for the first time, and he showed some good things, but when I say basically like a rookie season, he's going to have lumps, and he showed some good. He had some times that were not so good, but he's a really young player. I think he's still developing, and we'll just kind of I know like 5th-year option, all that stuff like you said is coming up. We'll address that at the appropriate time. But I'm proud of what Jeff did, and I know he'll hold himself accountable for his play of the good things and the things that he needs to work on.
Spending big in free agency stunt some of the progress with this youth movement that you have? Are you weary of spending big on a free agent, maybe even overpaying to get a guy to strengthen the group?
No, I mean, spending big is subjective a little bit, but no, I'm not worried about that. Again, like Dan and I have a plan that we're going to stick to in terms of how we're going to construct our roster, and those guys will all play. So just because we add a veteran or a big spin guy in free agency, it doesn't mean that another guy. One thing that is very prevalent that is high priority is player development in this building, and that will never be a shortcoming around here. So when we talk about stunning a guy's growth, that usually doesn't happen around here. So regardless of what we do in free agency, I think our young guys will still take the upward trajectory.
Enough though to where you're one player away, one player can make a difference to put you over the top. Like you feel you're there. Yeah.
I wouldn't say that. I still think we got enough work to do. I wouldn't put us in the we're one player away bucket. And again, even like I don't even know when that window comes. Like I don't even know when that one player away window comes. And if it does come, it doesn't matter. I'm still keep trying to get players. So, but there's some areas that we'll look at and address, and we'll be wise and smart and strategic in how we add. But again, we don't just spend big on getting a high-priced guy. It's got to be the right fit, and it's got to be the right guy. And if it's not the right guy, then it doesn't matter what the outside world thinks. And that's kind of what I said last year is about, I know there's a lot made about us signing our own guys back, and we're not aggressive because we're signing our own guys back. But look, that's still being aggressive because you still have to pay for those guys. You still have to sign them back. So, but we identified those were the right guys. Just because you go external and get a guy from an external team doesn't mean that it's the right guy. So, and I'm not saying that we won't do that, but that was kind of a little bit of, explanation of our approach was last year. But again, if it's a big spin, big ticket item, but it's got to be the right guy.
On the player development front, given what Ben Johnson's meant to the offense and Jared this year, how proactive do you have to be just be thinking about a replacement plan if he were to land one of these head coaching opportunities that he's up for?
Yeah, that's more of a question for Dan, and I have full trust. Just kind of like the examples that I laid out that Dan has made from a staff standpoint in season in the past. I have full trust. I have full trust in him that he's going to make the right decision. I have full faith in that, and so if it comes to that, I know Dan will make the right decision and make the necessary adjustments in terms of his staff.
Brad, I wanted to ask you, since you like Dave's question so much about drafting a quarterback.
I didn't dislike it. I just
I could tell. Just what's your philosophy about drafting a quarterback high and sitting him behind a veteran? I mean, Jared sat at the beginning of his rookie year.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of merit, and there's a lot of proof behind that. You can see countless examples of guys that got drafted high. Obviously, Patrick Mahomes comes up, right off the bat of them trading up and taking him high and sitting. But you can go back to the guy that we just got done playing in Aaron Rodgers. So there's a lot of there's a lot of proof in the pudding behind taking that approach, and I don't see anything wrong with it. It's a premium position. They don't grow in trees. They're really hard to find. Just like I said earlier, it's easy to get worse at that position and get better at that position because there's so few of them. So, but I'm not against at all that philosophy of draft one, let him sit and develop, and just kind of see what you got down the road.
Brad, we focus a lot on Campbell's gambles and risk-taking, although
Is that what it's
calculated.
called now?
Yes.
That's pretty cool. Campbell's gambles.
I like rhymes. I'm a big rhyme guy.
Yeah.
But is that reflective of you too?
Are you a rapper?
Look at me.
Show me your hip hop album.
Yeah. But is that reflective of you too? I mean, you traded your tight end in the middle of the season. You traded the quarterback when you first. Are you also of that mind? Calculated risk is good.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. I know me and Dan are both we're aggressive, but I would say both of us we're aggressively smart. So we're going to put the work in. We're going to put the time in. It's going to be well thought out. It's going to be planned and prepared. Again, we're not knee jerk. We're not impulse. We just don't do things just to do it. But yeah, I mean, I think both of us we have an aggressive nature when it comes to that kind of stuff. But again, I would label it aggressively smart.
So you like the hook and lateral?
I love the hook and lateral, man. That was sweet, man.
Yeah, we get to see it in the draft room and in the video on draft night the last 2 years, and the bear hugs and the high fives, and the slamming of the tables, and the excitement there that we get to see and the fans get to see. Behind closed doors this year, when some of those rookies produced, how hard were those high fives and bear hugs? You got to pat yourself in the back a little bit, right?
It was cool to see. I mean, I'll say when I'll say even Aiden, in that the Washington game where he had the 3 sacks, it was just cool to see. It was just man, all the work and everything that we believed in and everything that we thought he could do, the way he got the sacks, and then even seeing him intercept Aaron Rodgers in a big, seeing that and kind of talk about how, we did heavy study on his instincts and his awareness and all that stuff. And to see that, come about, I never forget one thing about Aiden, and people, he's talked about, his lack of ball production in the past before this year. But I remember at that Michigan Pro Day, unfortunately, the other kid at Jabo towards Achilles doing pass rush drops. But I remember Aiden only did one. And that one, it was like, whoa, I wouldn't expect it. He's an athletic dude, man. And so you see those kind of things you're excited, but to your point, James Houston, he was showing all the flashes in practice, and you're showing it, and you're just like, man, can we get him up? Can we get him up? And we're reaching a point where we couldn't really get him up, when we wanted to get him up, because we had a lot of injuries and the rosters didn't work to get him up. And gets up, and then that first time he went in, and I'm laser focused on this dude trotting out, run out in the field, and he gets that sack, and I probably just erupted in emotion. It's really cool to see. So that's a good question to ask, because when you see it, even Jamison Williams, him make that big play, that stuff is cool to see, and not just for me, but just the entire personnel staff. When you see those guys make plays, and especially how you envision them making plays, Kirby Joseph, it's always a good feeling.
Right, with Houston, you probably didn't anticipate getting some starts out of him, out of the 6th-round draft pick, but given where your college evaluation was, where it is now, what is the ceiling for James in this league?
Yeah, I think it's not out of the realm to say that he has starter level traits and abilities. Rather, he'll become that. But I think he's got the ability to be as good as he wants to be, and I got a lot of faith in that, because I know how he wants to work. We've had a lot of conversations, going back to training camp on things he need to work on, and he is always just yes sir, no sir, really smart kid, and all that production you saw, I couldn't tell you how many times he was after practice in that indoor or outside just working on his craft. And so when you get a guy that's got that kind of drive, and on top of the physical ability that he has, I was with the Rams when we drafted Robert Quinn, and I thought Robert Quinn probably had the most rare ability to bend around the edge. Didn't know when I was going to see that, but I would say that James, he's got a little bit of that ability to bend like that, and he's got a mean crossover encounter, and his arms are so long. I think that just really helps him out. So if he just keeps working, he can be as good as he wants to be.
One more question about the plan. Do you think you guys are ahead of schedule with the plan where you envisioned it at this point, or where do you think you guys are at as far as in the plan that you guys have?
Yeah, that's a fair question, E. Like I've always told y'all, like, we never really put an anchored timestamp on, oh man, it's going to be a 3-year thing, it's going to be a 4-year thing. We really just concentrated on, let's make sure that we're chopping wood and doing our part every single day and working hard every single day to win a game and, just make this place a winner. And that's what we're continuing to do. I think you could make a case that we're ahead of schedule, but again, we don't really dive into that really that much. I mean, obviously we look at it, we talk about it, just like I said earlier in this talk, like, we got to look at our plan. It's at 1-6. Is our plan working or not? But along that 1-6, those dark times, we saw enough where it's like, yes, no, the plan is working. We just need to get that one win. That's exactly what Dan was saying the whole time. We just got to get the one win, and it'll keep rolling, and we end up doing that. So we're just going to keep that focus, a little bit of just tunnel vision, and not worry about any of the outside noise or anything. But I guess it's safe to say, you could say it, we're ahead of schedule, but again, we just feel like we're just going to keep working. This is cool to see it materialize right now. Yeah.
Just because we haven't seen Vitae and Harrison, I know they've been around, but how are they doing health-wise?
Yeah, they're all rehabbing. We're all encouraged about where they're at in their process, and so those guys are just going to keep rolling.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.